Now, joining us to discuss men's mental health and financial struggles on Wake Up Nigeria this morning is Obi Olama Nadi, fondly called the Radio Doctor by her team in radio audience. She is the founding CEO and team lead of Thrive Network, a registered mental health NGO. It's such a pleasure to have you in the studio with us this morning. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Mary. It is so fantastic to be back. I'm good, thank you. And how's your mental health?
Very well.
It's functioning optimally. I like the I think.
Yeah, because sometimes you think you have it all put together until something tiny triggers you and you realize that you're actually falling apart. It's just something that is holding you together.
Absolutely.
I know we're not talking about your experience with PDD today, which is what even informed your beginning the mental health initiative. By the way, PDD, of course, I'm talking about postpartum depression. That's the PPD. But then, of course, when we talk about men's mental health, it's broad. There are actually so many angles to it.
Yeah.
So let's start from men accepting that they have certain weaknesses and being able to make the most of even those weaknesses.
Thank you so much. First off, I'd like to say happy Men's Health Month to every man watching us live right now on television. The month of June is mapped out to celebrate men's health, physical and mental health, because we know men tend to neglect themselves a lot in this aspect. And this year's theme is focusing on prostate cancer and lifelong wellness. So straight to the matter, what's mental health? I'd like to define mental health for the benefit of our listeners who do not have an idea. Mental health is a state of mental well-being that dictates how we think, feel, act, how we behave, how we manage stress, how we manage our relationships. And today we're talking men's mental health and money problems, but you asked a very important question, like how do we get our men to admit that they have emotions and they tend to experience challenging emotions. They tend to experience mood fluctuations like everybody else and all of that. Well, I think we need to tackle this subject from the root cause, which is how the boy child is raised in society.
Exactly.
So from the minute the boy child takes his first cry, you know, there's this weight of expectations on his shoulders, you know, culturally, socially, financially, and otherwise. So I always say to parents and guardians, the first thing to do is we raise the boy child same way we raise the girl child, right? It's totally okay. I heard Edgar a minute ago saying, why do you need to tell us men can cry and all of that? I found that really funny. Well, we need to, because first off, the impression is men don't cry. Men do not have emotions. In fact, I was reading an article a few days ago, and it said from the onset of the pandemic in 2020, there was a surge in the number of men who intentionally ended their lives through suicide. And this is a function of the inability to express themselves and tell people exactly what they are feeling. Now, there's also a notion I'd like to correct, you know, because if you bring 100 men, if you put 100 men in this room and you ask them, what is your biggest mental health struggle? They're likely to say financial, you know, money. And while this is true, because I mean, we understand the pressure and the expectations, you know, there has to be job security. You're constantly thinking about bills. You're constantly thinking about black tax. That's other family members and people who just rely on you financially and all of that.
What are referred to as responsibilities.
Responsibilities with a capital R, you know. But we tend to forget that there are men who already have a pre-existing history of mental health problems. There are men who are struggling with depression. And they've struggled with depression from a very early age, you know,
without even realizing
it. And this is even before they actually begin to pay bills and all of that. So what then tends to happen is they're struggling with depression. They're unable to talk to anybody about how they're feeling. And then they graduate or they move to that phase in their life where they start paying bills.
When the pressure piles on.
Thank you. When the pressure and the stressor piles on and all of that. And then what happens is it tends to further exacerbate their mental health struggles, which is why there's this surge in the number of men experiencing mental health problems globally.
Yeah.
And don't forget, even though on the mental health ladder, like I always say, men are at the bottom rung. It's almost as if they don't even exist. Because after children, you have women, you have young people. Men are really nowhere in the...
They are expected to be strong enough to cope.
Thank you. Don't forget, in society, on the ladder in society, men are the providers and protectors.
Yeah.
So how do you expect your protector to say, oh, I'm crying because
protection.
I lost that? You understand? But we forget, the people who tend to protect you are more often neglected than anybody else.
Yeah.
Which is why we are saying to our men, you need to take good care of yourselves. And ladies, Mary, please, you guys take good care of Edgar and Mike. Please. Pet them. It's not just compliments.
Yeah.
Gift them. Tell them how fantastic
We should
they
give
are.
them cold water when they ask for hot water.
Credit alert. Credit alert.
Cred. Let them start with us. Just kidding.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so that's it. And some of the major mental health problems men tend to experience, you know, when they're having financial struggles. And let me say this, by the way. Financial problems are not the only reasons men experience mental health problems. It's one reason, but it's not the only reason. Like I said, if men have a history of trauma, last night I saw this 2-minute clip about a man who was talking about parental neglect, and this man is
People
in
believe
his
men
50s.
cope.
Do you understand? Look, the way the boy child is raised is entirely different from the way the girl child is raised. You have an 8-year-old boy and you say to, oh, go out, go play football in the field. You have an 8-year-old girl and you say, you know what? Stay indoor, I don't want you going out and all of that. So what makes you think that an 8-year-old boy
wants
can
to play
protect
outside?
himself?
What if he doesn't even want to?
Exactly, exactly. So there's just a whole lot. So don't forget, a man can have a history of ongoing trauma as a function of a troubled early family life, as a function of parental neglect, extreme and severe parental neglect and abandonment. Men even experience heartbreak.
Yeah.
I was watching a clip the other day, and the lady, I think it was this online dating shows or something, and the lady, you know, said so much stuff to the guy. She degraded him. She talked about his outfit. She talked about his physical looks. The guy only said one thing to her, and then she just broke down in tears. So we expect men to absorb these things, and it's almost as if they do not have feelings.
Exactly.
And this is such an important conversation to have. And then so quickly, how do we address this, you know, mental health struggles for men when, in terms of finance?
Yeah.
Number one, I'd like to state again that there are 2 types of depression. So when people say, oh, a credit alert can cure my depression, it's not entirely true. It's not entirely true, because if you have a man who is experiencing depression from within, that's depression happening as a function of what's going on the inside. A credit alert of 200 million will not help him out.
It might only lighten his burden, but it might not lighten
but it's not addressing
on his heart.
Thank you very much. So when depression is happening from the outside as a function of job loss, as a function of debt and stuff like that, yes, that's probably when money problems can, you know, solve that type of depression. Now, that being said, we need to break the stigma. We need to break that stigma, the culture of silence. I mean, we were all raised in African homes, Nigerian homes specifically, where the culture of silence thrives. You're not expected to talk about how you're feeling. You're not expected to express negative emotions. And it's even worse for men. So we need to break that stigma of shame and silence revolving around men. That's number one. We need to encourage more open conversations. We need to encourage more open communication, even here in the workplace. Since this month is dedicated to men, we need to encourage our men, you know, initiate positive conversations around mental health.
So TVC has always had that going on. We have mental health experts, and staff are expected, not to, I'm not going to use the word allowed, expected to reach out to them when they need help with their mental health. So I must say that. That's fantastic.
And then we also need to, like you said, ensure that there's access to mental health care. Yeah. Because there's a huge gap when you look at physical health care and mental health care. Yeah. So ideally, every man should be able, the same way you have a hospital at almost every turn in Lagos, is the same way you should have a mental health facility at every turn. In fact, in every hospital, there should be a mental health team on ground, a mental health nurse, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, you know, mental health counselors, and all of that, just to help these men. And then most importantly, remember the three levels in society, that's family, community, and government, they have very important roles to play.
Absolutely.
You know, when you say to families, you need to raise your boy child to express himself, they say, oh, you're trying to emasculate my son, you're trying to make him effeminate. No, that's not what we're trying to do. We're actually trying to help improve men's well-being. So at the family level, when a man is struggling, when your dad, your brother, your male cousins, your son is struggling, that's when they need that social support the most. That's not the time to shame them.
You know, talking about the family level, there's something that had been playing at the back of my mind. Before then, I'll quickly say what I wanted to say earlier.
Okay.
I wanted to say there are many people who see therapy as a luxury. Why should I spend all that money?
Exactly.
Forgetting that there are benefits to it. But then what I wanted to say about the family is, few people realize that as much as women need care after delivery, that's the whole postpartum period and all, there are several men who actually suffer from postpartum depression.
Absolutely.
Nobody talks about it.
Nobody talks.
As a woman becomes a mom, a man becomes a father.
A dad.
And he's exposed to things he never knew of.
Thank you
He's
so much,
exposed to
Mary.
experiences, emotions, the struggle to be there for his child the way he wants to.
Exactly. And don't forget, I mean, we're deviating, but this is such an important conversation. Don't forget, even dads with a history of problems with their own dads who never knew their own fathers, dads who are not in the best of places with their dads, and all of that, such dads tend to struggle. I mean, dads who have the greatest relationship with their fathers tend to struggle because this is a massive lifestyle change, right? And don't forget, we're talking money problems. Diapers, baby food, these things can't wait.
Works,
It can't wait. I'm telling you right now, as a woman, there are times I'm unable to meet up with some of my bills. I just make a call. I call my uncle, I call somebody. I'm like, can you send me some money? I promise you, my brothers can't do that as easily as I can. And when I make that call, everybody is running helter-skelter to see that I'm fine. But there's hardly anybody any man who picks up the phone and says, hey, my wife just had a baby, can you help me out here? And all of that. So this is such an important conversation to have. A lot of men are, oh, Mary, I've seen you do this. So I get it completely, totally.
There's so much to say when it comes to men and mental health challenges and all. And we can only encourage men who are going through such stuff to actually seek help. There's no shame in it. That's part of the stigma and shame you're talking about.
Yes.
Seek help so you can be all right. You can be taken care of. Your well-being is more important than what people think or say. Thank you so much for your time, Obi. It's been quite an interesting conversation. Thank you indeed.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, we'll take a break. You're watching Wake Up Nigeria. Just stay with us. We'll be right back.